You're listening to the 14th source for all geeky nerdy news and discussion, which means that you're listening to a podcast.
For all intents and purposes.
I am D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And we are your two overeducated codependent nerd hosts, bringing you the things that we like to talk about, but filtered through inquisitive and critical lenses in the episode for Friday, September 12th, 2025. It's been, you know what? We're going to talk about super nerdy stuff today. Yeah. So before we get to that, I want to briefly touch on current news. Mm-hmm. And then we can go on to the stuff that Andrew and I actually want to talk about. The follow-up, the fabled follow-up to the Metroidvania Hollow Knight, Hollow Knight SILKSONG, has finally released. And there's just a couple points here that I think are fascinating, and then we can move on. Whether you've played Hollow Knight or not, that game did gangbusters, generally speaking. And the follow-up has built up a lot of hype over the years. And there's two things that kind of stand out to me when it was released last Thursday, September 4th.
Everyone's like, oh my God, it's Dan's birthday. Let's buy this game.
The following day, yeah. And then, but like more importantly, there was a news story I read. I've been trying to find it. The news, because it was one of those situations where the team released a new trailer and then said basically it's coming out in 3 weeks. So it was a kind of quick turnaround. And all of a sudden there were some news stories about like some independent developers who, upon the announcement of the release date for this game, started getting out of the way, which is like usually something you see in AAA gaming. And you see this especially in movies a lot, where a huge blockbuster movie is announced, and then other like smaller movies start shifting.
Right, because you don't want your movie or your game to release the same time as the thing that everyone's going to buy or go see. Right, that makes sense. Right,
which is funny considering SILKSONG is a game made by a small independent team. It's like if Kevin Smith came out and said Clerks 4 is coming out September 4th, and everyone's like, "Oh shit!"
Well, so all the indie movie people are shit.
Exactly.
Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not like Marvel or Disney or whoever didn't like sit down for this. It was all of the other people making indie shit were like, "Oh shit."
Although they maybe needed to sit down, because when apparently SILKSONG dropped, because there were no pre-orders or physical releases, I don't believe, apparently it broke every storefront from Steam to PlayStation to Xbox to Nintendo. The hype was real, and to be honest, I haven't heard much since its release. Mostly because they also did not send out any codes to reviewers beforehand either. So I think it's just everybody's playing it right now, and then we'll see in the next week or so post-hot takes dropping. But like whether it's good or not doesn't matter. I think it's a fascinating look at the game space where here's an indie, like genuinely an indie game, making a big splash.
Right.
And this is my thing. It's like it's a 2D Metroidvania. And this game paused the industry for even a small moment. That is cool to see. That is so cool to see for me. Like, because we talk about, like, you and I wax nostalgic on games of the past, or at least game styles of the past. We love seeing indie games sort of taking those old styles or genres and pushing them forward. And we're like, this is great. This is as good as any, if not better than most AAA, quote unquote, AAA games we play. And part of the implied aspect of it is that a 2D Metroidvania couldn't be a mainstream, let's just say $60 or $70 game. Now, I don't think they're charging that much for SILKSONG, but at the very least, it's having an impact like that would have, even if for a short while. And that is really, really cool to see, especially because it is still an actual indie developer just making the best game they can make. And that makes me happy.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry the storefronts broke. That sucks, for sure.
Sorry, Steam.
Yeah, well, it happens. Actually, I don't know if it really happens that often for Steam. But we're here to talk about things that are not broken. Things that get taken, repurposed, and perhaps made better. Definitely repurposed. Because we are here to talk Star Trek.
To talk... No, let's be very clear. We're here to talk cutting edge, edge of your seats, Star Trek as it was released. I don't know, 60 fucking years ago?
God, yeah, that's true. Yeah, fuck. But that's the thing. Like, actually, if we're going back to the source, it was never officially released until years later.
So,
right?
Basically, here's a fun story. Dan likes Star Trek. He's been watching Star Trek
for a hot minute.
You know, it's been, 5 years since he really went deep.
Yeah.
And you've been watching Strange New Worlds. You saw TNG. You're currently watching DS9 and Voyager.
Yeah.
And I don't know what prompted you.
I can tell you what prompted me to watch some original series Star Trek. OTS is what it's called. Because it sounds...
Those old scientists.
I mean, those scientists apparently in my brain, because OTS has a better mouthfeel than TOS. But, which is a gross sentence to say out loud. But, so what started it was actually the most recent?
Yes.
Yeah, I think the most recent episode of Strange New Worlds.
As of the time we're recording, but not...
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the previous week. Episode of Strange New Worlds, which called back to an original series episode called Arena. And so, with my birthday weekend last weekend, we were out of town. We had access to streaming. We had nothing but good food and good beverages to kind of keep our attention in the evenings after going to the beach and just hanging out. Like, let's watch some Star Trek. And so we watched Arena, and that was awesome. And then, what was it? What cut? I just got a hankering to watch because of Strange New Worlds, and we hadn't watched this episode since we started watching Strange New Worlds. A two-part, if I'm not mistaken, the only two-parter in the original series.
Yes.
Called The Menagerie, which is it's a lot.
Sorry, it's a clip episode.
It's a clip show. Yeah, but it's
the
interesting.
Weirdest clip episode ever.
Because at the time of release, it was a clip show for an episode no one had ever seen.
Right.
But basically, so what the Menagerie is it tells a story of Captain Pike, who is the protagonist of Strange New Worlds. Captain Christopher Pike is the
lead actor of the original pilot for the show that Gene Roddenberry pitched, Star Trek.
The Cage. Yeah. Right. That's the whole thing. It's like they filmed a pilot that was apparently ridiculously and prohibitively expensive. And the main character of that show was Christopher Pike, not played by William Shatner. I almost forgot his
Jeffrey
name.
Hunter.
Yeah, it's played by Jeffrey Hunter, who died very tragically. Don't look that up if you want to have a good evening.
Yikes.
But they didn't pick up the show. But they basically said, we're not going to pick it up, but do another pilot, which is kind of a rare thing. And so they recast the character. Well, they didn't recast the character. They jettisoned that character and created a new one, and then of course hired.
Well, and jettisoned most of the cast.
Yeah, indeed. Except for a Spock,
one person.
And technically they kept an actress, but in a different role.
Different role. Let's not talk about that yet.
I wanted to watch The Menagerie because we are now. My wife and I are just like waist deep in Strange New Worlds, just fandom. And of course, especially in the first season of Strange New Worlds, there's been the looming threat of Captain Pike's future. And we see flashes of it, especially since we hadn't seen Star Trek Discovery. Right. They basically the first episode and throughout the first season, they talk about what's going to happen to him. So I'm like, this would be fun to watch because we have a bit more context for it now. And I will say, let me just say this up top. As a Strange New Worlds fan, The Menagerie is awesome. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun time, and especially paves a lot of context around what Strange New Worlds is. Understanding that the context of Strange New Worlds is a little different because it comes out of Discovery, and it's like you said, 60 years later, right? And especially, it does modify what happens in The Cage, the original pilot, a little bit.
Well, what I would say is that when Strange New Worlds came out, there was a special feature. I don't know if it was the Will Wheaton show, but they actually had the Alex Kurtzman and Akiva Goldsman saying they called it the 50-year pickup.
Huh.
Right. The idea that like the Cage had been filmed as a pilot to a show, and here they are, or whatever, 50, 60 years later, picking it up. So I want to say that because like the idea that it's this weird space of a pilot's filmed, it's rejected, a new pilot's filmed, a show's picked up, that show then spawns a whole menagerie of television, but then like the long way around, we go back to this original show, and here we are now like doing the pickup of that show.
It's interesting, especially in the context of a world also with the lower decks, because they're both kind of not steeped in, well, Lower Decks was definitely steeped in referential commentary and humor. This one is too, but not as, blatant or comedic. But it definitely, Strange New Worlds feels like they have a huge palette of colors to play with, which is funny considering it's technically ostensibly takes place in a very narrow span of time.
Right.
Because we know what happens.
And I don't want to spend too much time talking about Strange New Worlds, only because like that's its own thing. Actually, I want to talk about your experience with the Menagerie.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, how that an episode of the original series was basically it took the like this original pilot and made it part of this new show. Like it's a clip show
by Roddenberry himself.
But but it's a clip show, but not. It's not just a clip show. Like they wrapped the clip show in enough that it creates a new narrative, and
they wrapped it in a framework that becomes a stalwart of Star Trek-dom for pretty much every series in the future. It's a courtroom episode,
right?
And that is something that, like, especially from TNG onward, we kind of look forward to those episodes because they always tend to be kind of awesome, right? Philosophical and deep and interesting and kind of weird. This is definitely, there are hints of it, but obviously it's an episode, a two-part episode that's filling a need.
Yeah, the need being they needed to recycle footage.
It was like right in the middle of the production of season 1, from what I understand, and CBS. Who was the original? It was CBS that originally aired the show.
NBC.
Desilu, well, yeah, NBC. That's right. Basically, we're like, you guys are expensive. Can you do? We're worried you're not going to be able to give us episodes on time. Can you give us a couple episodes quickly and on the cheap? And Gene was like, sure, because we spent like $500,000 on an episode that no one's ever seen, and basically, yeah. Cut up that pilot, introduced a framework around it, and then was able to get 2 episodes out of that on a really quick turnaround and for really cheap. I don't know how you want to attack this. Like, should we talk about the Cage first and then the Menagerie, or should we go backwards?
Well, no. Tell me your experience.
Okay, I'll tell you my experience. I watched a TV show.
Yeah. No, like this is a weird Week in Geek.
Yeah, basically. So I hadn't seen The Cage, the original pilot.
Okay. Big interrupt right now.
Yes.
I just want to say, friends of the show, I actually thought Dan had seen this, and we talked about it already.
Yeah, you got like upset. You're like, "Fuck you! You've seen this, you asshole."
Seen this. I've seen like I scoured our website and like, oh no, I guess.
So you did 2 archive searches.
That's scouring.
Yes,
sir.
Fair enough. But no, we have not. I have not. And especially because like there was a part where I'm like, maybe I have. But then I watched it. I'm like, I have not seen this. I was really interested, mostly, I know we weren't supposed to necessarily come back to it, but like from a Strange New Worlds perspective, I'm really interested to see the characters that I know and see how they were portrayed 60 years ago, almost 60 years ago. Because yeah, the pilot was originally filmed in 64, 65, something like that.
Yeah.
Fuck, that's crazy. and see what the differences are. I was actually pleasantly surprised at how Star Trek it felt. Of course, it was in the middle of season 1 of Star Trek, which honestly, it's a show still finding its footing. But it's really fascinating to see how Star Trek was in the middle of season 1, and then to also bring in this footage from pre-Star Trek ostensibly, and how Star Trek-y it felt. There's a clear vision. Obviously, things have changed over time. Sensibilities have changed over time. But there's like a core there that is clear and connected, right? I think the thing that really stood out to me. Okay, let's just talk about this since we've talked a lot about Star Trek: Changing Worlds. Also, understanding that the footage they were showing us was from the pilot that was rejected. I was really impressed with the actor that played Pike. I thought he was pretty interesting and engaging, and how much they're pulling from that character in Strange New Worlds. Like, he talks about in this pilot episode, I just want to retire. I want to go. I have a ranch with 2 horses, right? I'm like, oh yeah, you do, bro. I've seen those horses, albeit 60 years later. I did not know that his first officer in the pilot was a woman, which they obviously have kept for Strange New Worlds and have developed in much more detail. Especially upon doing research, what I was most impressed with was just how they repurposed this pilot. It wasn't just a clip show. They actually repackaged the narrative so that some of the footage we see, especially at the end of the episode, is being rewritten to be something different. And
yes. I'd say mostly the last scene.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like, to that extent, like there is, okay. And there is some stuff where it's like, oh, this is old cultural stuff. And, mostly sexism kind of,
right.
That kind of stuff. But it wasn't as bad as I expected, for one. For two, they cut a lot of the real bad stuff out that was in the original pilot. But 3, I think the cutting and the recontextualization that they did was actually pretty smart. And more than anything, even though it was repurposing previous footage, I think they actually made a pretty good 2-part episode about, if not the current crew of the Enterprise, at least about Spock. Like, it is a Spock episode, ultimately. Although there are some points where you're kind of suspending disbelief a little hard, going like, Spock's really like leaving a wake of destruction here. But okay.
And I'll address that later.
Yeah.
Because I want to say that they've maybe done some work on that. But we'll get back to that.
Sure.
No, because it is this thing where like he is the one actor that was in that was in both that portrayed the same character. I said because Majel Barrett actually was the first officer, who we now know as Una, but she didn't get a name until 4 years ago.
Yeah.
So the idea that like that character was, whatever, but like Spock was, Leonard Nimoy was the one person who had a character who appeared in both.
Albeit that character is pretty different from...
Very different.
Yeah.
Very different. And actually, I'll address that as well.
Yeah, I read some stuff like what Leonard Nimoy's choices in the pilot were basically because everybody else was like a stick in the mud. I had to be the animated one. I'm like, whoa, calm down, buddy.
Well, there's this whole thing. Well, I'd say like the idea that there's discussion that Majel Barrett, who played number 1, her character was, like kind of weirdly dispassionate.
Right.
And that they combined those things,
right.
Leonard Nimoy. So like, there's a whole like whatever, but like this idea that they took this old footage, what you would have thought is like a throwaway, like poof, this is a garbage, failed pilot, and repurposed it into being an episode of your now successful-ish show. Like, there's something kind of like magical about that.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, man, hey, bro, you say my show's too expensive? Let me do 2 episodes on the cheap.
Right. Well, a couple things there. So, like, first, before we go on to what I want to say here about sort of the differences between the pilot and what the show became, the biggest difference that is immediately evident with the character of Spock between the pilot and the actual show is that smiling.
Oh,
Pike and the team goes down to the planet and Talos 4, and they see these singing plants, and Pike touches a leaf, and some of the singing stops, and Spock touches a leaf, and more of the singing stops, and they both look at each other and give big old goofy smiles. I'm like, oh, this is wrong. This is bad.
Well, that's
not bad, but
what, as Boimler said, like, whoa, was Spock smiling?
Yeah, right.
Again, and I would say for anyone that watches The Cage or The Menagerie and wonders like, oh, that's weird. It is very much that that whole dispassionate, non-emotional thing, that was something that I guess number one was.
Right.
And that when they rewrote the new show, they combined that.
But it's not weird because it's a pilot.
He's a junior officer.
Yeah, he's younger, right?
And we've retconned a lot of that.
Well, I mean, arguably in Strange New Worlds, we see that young Spock. We see him being different from Spock. Well, we see him
after that. That's the thing.
In Strange New Worlds?
It's after The Cage.
Wait, what?
I'm sorry. Strange New Worlds is before. After The Cage, but before Menagerie.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Right. So we're and actually that's so. Gosh, I guess I'm going to segue into. Star Trek already knew this was a thing, I guess. So they sort of address this in Discovery, season 2.
I have not seen Discovery. For those that want to know, dear listeners. So
I want to talk more about that. But I want to get back to it after you have unloaded your feels.
Oh, I mean, I think I might have said all I want to say. Like the thing I do want to emphasize here before we go to the Discovery stuff is that let's not forget that technically Strange New Worlds is a spin-off of Star Trek Discovery. That most of these characters appeared in season 2 of Discovery. Is that right?
Well, not most. 3 of these characters.
Tres. I'm guessing it's Pike and Una and Spock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before I go into the future, I want to talk about the past.
Yes.
Like, there is just something about the way that they... Again, when you think about, hey, the show was expensive. You know, they were told, shit dog, your show's too expensive.
Right.
And Gene's like, I'll give you 2 episodes on the cheap. And they filmed what was essentially a bottle episode.
Right.
Right? Like, hey, man, here's the set we already have. Let's get these guys and just sit around and go beep, beep.
Hey, they made them fancy uniforms.
Right once, and it's actually probably where the first, dress uniform showed up. Like,
is it really? Nice.
I mean, I think in the original series, that's episode 15.
Something like that, yeah.
That might be it's still, if they didn't develop it for that, better on them. Yeah, man, we recycled these dress uniforms.
So I mean, obviously, I would not be surprised if it was the first time because the medals as arranged on the shirts of Kirk and the Admiral. No, who was the Commodore? They're sloppy.
But the idea that hey, they did that episode, and it's actually again a clip show. That has something compelling to it because it's not just a clip show. And I will always throw out my least favorite clip show, which is Star Trek season 2, Star Trek TNG season 2, season finale, where Riker gets a brain worm or some shit.
Yeah, and becomes director of the HHS.
Suddenly he has to be in sickbay while they promote good or bad feelings to make him better.
Right. It's like he's the goo from Ghostbusters 2.
It's just the most basic boy fucking clip show. Where this is they built a clip show around a narrative. Hey, here's the new story.
Right.
Spock is doing this thing, and to understand why he's doing the thing, we have to have the clip show.
And that's the thing. It's a restructuring of the pilot because no one had seen it out publicly, right? And so they're tailoring it to fit the story they're telling with the actual show that's airing, right? And so it's a retcon technically, but they're able to use all the footage to tell the new story without having to bring, and explicitly without having to bring in the original act, especially the original lead actor. Like Jeffrey Hunter,
right,
did not come back to film anything. Did not come back to do it. I mean, to a deleterious effect in a sense. But before we get to like Discovery, the thing I wanted to bring up was the reason why, from what I read, that it didn't get picked up, that the pilot didn't get picked up, was NBC saying it's too cerebral, it's too slow. Why doesn't the finale have a fight? And honestly, me reading that was like, that sounds great. Right? Why not have more, I don't know, diplomacy and logic and rationalism solve problems?
Well, it's funny because they created the new pilot, where No Man Has Gone Before, which had ended with a fight, whatever, which got the show, and then it's like, let me backdoor my original pilot into your show.
With that being said, like both the pilot, from what I've read about the Cage, and from what I've seen of the original series, like there's still like a more than we see with like TNG onward. Like it's still kind of a space western flavor to it, right? And yeah, punching happens because that's what happens when you're out in the wild
in
west.
Space.
Yeah, the undiscovered country. It's a fascinating episode, especially considering how it retcons things. I guess before we go to Discovery here, the thing that they retcon specifically is that, well, I don't want to recap the plot because that would take forever, and you can read it on Wikipedia. But basically, they retcon the ending so that there was a character who basically had the option to go back with humanity to the Enterprise after being stranded on this planet. But because this is also where things get kind of awkward, because she's quote unquote too ugly, she couldn't go with them. And so they created because she was in love with Pike, they created a hallucination, right? A fake Pike
Vina.
for her to...
You're talking about Vina.
Yeah. They created a fake Pike for her to live on this planet so she could be happy and pretty for the rest of her life. And then they take that and break the ending so that actually with the Menagerie, Pike, who is horribly scarred and basically an invalid, gets
this. What do I mean? Like, here's the thing. He gets the same treatment.
Exactly.
Right. Like, she was, horribly disfigured, couldn't do the thing, couldn't leave. Like, they were basically keeping her alive. It's like, okay, no problem, girl. But now, Pike, who's now horribly disfigured, can't, whatever.
So disfigured, he's played by a different actor.
He's getting the same treatment.
Yeah.
And now, I want to actually talk about Discovery.
If you want more context for The Cage and the Menagerie, both are available on Paramount Plus. So we're not going to recap it. We're here to talk about just the larger context.
Well, and the reason I want to talk about Discovery is because these two episodes could stand on their own as kind of like here's the original pilot, didn't get picked up.
Right.
Here's the weird, 2-part clip show. Right. Gosh, that's fun. And on their own, that could be a thing. But, one could watch the show and be like, why did Spock take his captain back to this planet that's forbidden? Why did because there's a certain idea of like, Spock didn't engage with the Telosians.
Right.
Like, so, why would he be like, oh, motherfucker, I know you're into that.
So we'll say like part of the plot of The Cage and, part of the plot of the Menagerie is that basically Spock mutinies. Mutinies
to take his beloved captain to a place where like you're so wrecked that I know a place where people that are wrecked get to live their life.
But there's a rub there, and I think it kind of rubs against later Star Trek. It's like Talos 4, especially like in the utopian sense of what the Federation's all about. apparently in this Federation, they're like, but if you go to Talos 4, we're going to kill you. Right? There's like a death sentence to if you go to Talos 4.
General Order 4, I believe it is. Don't fucking go here. So
simple, yeah.
It's like there's a lot of general orders and rules, but this one is don't go to this planet. We will kill you. Yeah. But the reason I do want to talk about Discovery, because basically what happened is before we had Strange New Worlds, they did Discovery Season 2, which opened with, hey, actually, I think Discovery Season 1 ended with, hey, you've met the Enterprise.
Right, because they went back in time, right? They got thrown back in time. No?
No, they just they did their mission. It was pre-original series.
Oh.
And it ends with like, oh, there's a ship that's contacting us. Here's the Enterprise. And Season 2 started with, hey, the captain of the Enterprise is taking command of Discovery.
Oh, shit.
His name is Captain Pike.
Oh, no.
Basically, because the whole thing was that one of his crew members, a guy named Spock, had some issues and disappeared, like essentially ran off. So he's now here to follow up on that. But he basically, he takes command of Discovery to find Spock.
The search for Spock, if you will.
If you will. Eventually gets to, what's the episode called? If memory serves. I think it's like episode 7 or 8. Which is...
It's called If Memory Serves?
Yes. Basically, it involves a little bit of spoiler, not too much, that Spock has been rescued from whatever adventure he's on by his sister. Michael Burnham, played by Sonequa, what's her name? God, sorry, let me not
Sidney
fuck up.
Poitier.
No. Sonequa Martin Green. Which had been established in that show that like she is an adopted human child of Sarek.
Oh shit!
There's a whole backstory there, but basically like she and Spock, like she rescues Spock from whatever trauma he's going, or not trauma, like from whatever adventure he's on, and ends up going to Talos 4.
But that's forbidden, Andrew.
Oh,
not yet?
No, it still is.
Oh, okay.
But the idea is that what the episode does is it creates a bridge. So if you watch the Menagerie and you're like, why are we here? Like, why did Spock just like, oh man, hey, I tricked you, Captain Kirk, to come to this starbase where my old Captain Pike was, and then I captured him and took you all to this planet. And it is a weird thing where, like, while it was a fun episode, you're like, brah, how'd you get here? You know?
Right.
And what they establish is that, because also if you watch The Cage, Spock doesn't interact with the Telosians that much.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it's a Captain Pike episode, honestly.
Right. It's like he's just some fucking regular or whatever. Like he's not that important. So why is it he knows? And that's what this Discovery episode does. It says like he knows that they got mind powers. So he goes there for his own issue.
Pulsing mind powers.
Yeah, pulsing mind powers. He goes there for his own issue. And in that, like, kind of realizes they can help him. But what it also does, and I will say in the episode, if memory serves, Vina connects with Pike. And there's this whole thing of like they establish that
in the Discovery episode.
Discovery, yes.
Oh, to the recast Vina as well.
Yes, they
do. Oh, interesting.
They establish that Vina, like, she's still hot for him, and she even knows that she was given a fake Pike.
Whoa. Okay.
But he's also like he has big like, hey girl, hey, like
yeah.
It kind of has like this idea that, and again, as we see Pike in Strange New Worlds, this idea that he still had, like, he had big feelings for her. But he accepts that, like, I'm never going to get to act on them because you're here. And this show really really, she's like, hey, you coming back or whatever. Like, it's this kind of thing where he's like, no, I have to just accept that, like, hey, Vina, good to see you again. Love, but no.
Heart emoji.
But, like, it kind of builds this idea that Spock sees this and is like, oh, shit, dude, I know what my dog wants, you know? Which, for me, sorry, I'm trivializing it, but, like, it kind of... It provides this context of, like, why Spock would be willing to throw it all away to reconnect Pike with his life that he could have had there.
Oh, God, it really does set up the Menagerie nicely, doesn't it?
Because that's the thing. Like, the Menagerie is like, you're like, why is Spock throwing his whole career away?
Yeah, like, he's like annihilating people. Like, he is, like, going down to, like, the communications bay of this space dock, basically, and like, hey, are you an engineer? Fucking Vulcan neck pinch, throw your ass on the floor face first. And he's like, he is just rolling through folks to make this happen.
Right.
It's crazy.
So it's the idea that, like, they try to, in Discovery, say, he was helped by the Telosians for reasons that are beyond the context of this episode. And he also realizes his boy, you know, likes the girl.
Which makes you feel bad for his fiance, girlfriend in Strange New Worlds.
I mean, but also, like, but even in Strange New Worlds, you know that's not going to work out. Beat,
motherfucker. That's a no, by the way.
But, like, that's the thing, right? Like, it's this whole thing where, I guess for me, maybe I'm too in deep on this.
Or she turns into a Gorn, by the way. But
or right, like, it's just like beat. So it does feel like this whole thing of this weird convoluted. And sorry, I really love the idea of a show or a book or a story that you love never really made sense, and then years later, people are like putting the pieces in place. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, especially when there's like space to do so, right? And it's not just a blatant retcon. Like, it's actually filling in gaps that make the story richer.
Right. So Spock is willing to put his entire career, his life even, on the line to help his friend. Again,
going to Talos 4 results in death. Like, no questions asked.
General Order 4.
He is... that's actually one of the best parts of the Menagerie. It's like, there's a genuine, like, discussion or discord between Kirk and Bones. Where, like, Bones is like, me, it makes sense. I'm a human. I could be an asshole anytime I wanted to. But Spock... he wouldn't do this. Why would he ever do this? And it causes a really great and honestly, like, a great character moment for Kirk, where it's like, what does he trust or think about Spock? And ultimately relies on trusting him, despite the fact that all the evidence shows that he is being a villain. And honestly, Spock is a villain until just like that magic a communique from Uhura at the end over like an overdub going like, hey, they dropped all the charges, basically. Basically, you're all good. Let's go on the next mission. Beep, beep, beep. It's all relying on the fact that Spock is acting logically and that everybody around him, especially in this crew in the Enterprise, trusts that about him. But let's be honest, like, there needs to be a sit-down discussion after the actions of the Menagerie to go like, Spock, you know, you could have just like talked to me, right?
Well, and I would actually,
and they cover that in the episode as well. Yeah,
you can imagine this being the real like foundational moment of that relationship between Kirk and
100%, 100%.
Right? Especially as we see what Strange New Worlds is doing, like what it's building. Like why is Spock so good friends with Kirk?
Why is Kirk always on my fucking ship?
that's all like, hey, bro, like that. Sorry, there's a meme of like Pike being like, hey, Kirk, why you always on my shit, bro? But I think there's something to be said there about, and there's other reasons why they might be friends, but just to be like, this is that, hey, we saw Spock give his all to, for this person that he cared about a lot. And Kirk, who, like, had already developed a little bit of those feels, now being like, yeah, bro, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
And then they go through that same thing, right? To imagine what they went through, what. So, like, again, it is this very much just people writing a show who now 50 to 60 years later were like, oh wow, and then people that wrote a show 5 years ago to stitch between the two.
That's the thing. The Menagerie specifically, not necessarily the Cage, but the Menagerie, where it's the stitching together of lore and repurposing of lore that, especially in a modern Star Trek context, is this nexus point of like the stuff that Star Trek can be. And it's okay to play with it. Well, it's okay to play with the
Sorry, I'm sorry. I love the man. Gene just wanted to sell it.
Yeah, no, he did, and and you know what? It fucking worked.
And
it fucking worked.
He created this idea.
This episode sold me on Gene Roddenberry as a writer more than anything else I've fucking seen, and from everything else I've heard. But it really gave permission to creators of the show post this moment to like, let's fill in the holes, but let's also respect like what the show is about, and especially because we're all nerds working on this, let's try to make it all make sense without over taxing the limits of the suspension of disbelief, right? Not only the Menagerie, but a lot of the stuff that has come since then about that story has been really thoughtfully done. The one thing I was really interested in, because I remember the episode from season 2, because I'd really recently rewatched season 2 of Strange New Worlds, was when they mentioned, Rylos? It's the part of the Cage and the Menagerie where
where they talk about like
it's the Lotus Eaters episodes.
They go back to they go back.
I've heard of this planet before. I'm fucking looking it up as I'm watching this show. I'm like, oh yeah, this is weird. But and honestly, that's one of the weaker parts of the Menagerie because it's clear the budget was showing on that.
Well, it says I don't know if actually I forget what the Menagerie has, but in the original Cage, there's the whole scene in the opening where the Doctor shows up in his quarters.
They have a martini, yeah. That's in the Menagerie as well. They cut out a lot of from what I understand, they cut out a lot of the Enterprise stuff from the Cage in the Menagerie, mostly because there's a lot of sexism. Like there's a part where Pike apparently in the Cage mentions Una and number one. And he's like, oh, sorry, number one, I'm just not used to having a woman on the bridge, right? They cut that out.
Yeah.
But the target part I'm mentioning is when he's on Talos. And the Talosians...
And they make him reimagine that.
So the mission on Rylos 4 or something like that? Rylos 7? Rygar? Not Rygar, that's an NES game. But whatever it was, in the Cage, that mission had just recently happened. And it's just so... what I love about Strange New Worlds is like they pick up these small threads. And this is what I love about the Lower Decks too, is that they're so good at picking up these small threads. The people they've worked in the shows are picking up the small threads and like... There's room to expand this without breaking things. And honestly, with Strange New Worlds, they are able to make prequels and sequels to episodes that happened in the original series and have it all fit together. It's unfortunately, we know with Lower Decks ended and Strange New Worlds coming to an end in a couple seasons, it's really a fascinating point to kind of look back and like, oh, actually, the people that are running Star Trek now know what they're doing. And they're handling a continuity in a way that is unprecedented and, more admirable than what a lot of continuity heavy franchises are doing. It's just so it's chef's kiss. That's all I can say. Yeah. It's chef's kiss.
So I did the work. It's Rigel 7.
Rigel. That's exactly what I said. At least I got the 7 right. at some point. But yeah, the Rigel 7, and honestly, what we see in the Strange New Worlds episode is not what they show in the Menagerie. It's like very cheap, like medieval castle and like princess and some guy with teeth prosthetics
like
that don't stay in place.
barbarian,
Yeah, it's very bad. But who cares? Go watch Strange New Worlds instead. It's fantastic. Obviously, like we didn't talk about Arena, but like, yeah, it's relevant to that episode of Strange New Worlds that just aired last week. But getting me to watch this stuff, I've just grown in appreciation to what Strange New Worlds is doing, what the whole team behind Star Trek is doing, especially in the context of the Lower Decks. And I'm guessing Discovery, it seems. It just took me down a rabbit hole. I'm like, I really want to watch more original series episodes now. Maybe it's time. It's getting time. Maybe when season 3 of Strange New Worlds ends, maybe my wife and I start diving into the original series and just start from the beginning and go.
Well, I would say be careful. You're already watching DS9 and Voyager.
Are you saying, Andrew, are you saying one can have too much Star Trek in their life?
I would just say finish one before you go for the other.
Okay. So, this is what Deep Space Nine ends. Enterprise picks up. We get 2 episodes of Enterprise and go like, we should just watch the original series.
Yeah, that worked. That's how we did it.
It's been a long road.
Getting from there to here.
Indeed.
So yeah, no, to me, this really, like the idea that you watch this episode or this 2-part episode. Mm-hmm. And honestly, like the way that it was, actually, I think when I wanted, no, I actually really love the idea that you basically proposed, this was the first, like, not retcon, but like stitching our, like, 'cause I don't know if shows have done that.
Yeah, no,
like,
right.
Hey, man, Bonanza had an episode 10 years ago. Like, no one gave a shit. Mm-hmm. But here it is, like, by accident. Star Trek had this previous story, not by accident, but like by circumstance, that like, no, let's build it in. Let's wrap around it.
Honestly.
It's almost like it feels like the first real commitment to the canon.
Yeah.
Which is funny given how shit Star Trek is with canon. I say that because if you know Star Trek, you know it's shit with canon. But I like that. It's like this is Star Trek's first commitment to canon, no matter the cost.
And it's pretty good. Like, and I will say this, like, it's also, I think part of it, there's a couple things. I think the writing and stitching together of it is pretty well done. But also, what I'm watching is the 2004 kind of remaster of the original series. And they do a pretty good job, kind of. And that's the other thing we didn't even talk about. Like, just the whole arc of getting this episode to happen. Like, I think they might have, in the original airing of the Menagerie, from what I read, I might be wrong, because I was not alive in 1960, whatever, right? They had lost the original print of the cage, and so when they did the flashbacks, it was all off a black and white print that Roddenberry had, until someone found a nice print of the cage, and in the 80s they re-edited it back in and then actually released the cage as part of the viewing order of the original series for syndication. And then of course in the 2000s they remastered all of it so it looks nice. Right. But like, it's just like, it's wild to see how ramshackle it was of a presentation and how relatively seamless it is watching it now. But yeah, there are aspects of it where it feels kind of old, but generally I think it's really watchable, especially with the augmentations that they gave it, which are very subtle in terms of remastering and effects. It's good TV, and I'd rather watch it than a lot of other modern stuff anyway. So,
well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. For me, it was just the idea to go back and watch the Discovery season 2, if memory serves, just to realize like how much they lead into basically like the Telosians, Spock and his relationship with Pike, and actually Pike and his relationship with Vina.
That's interesting, yeah.
Because it is this thing where, and I will say, not a big spoiler, it ends with him thinking this is the last time I'll see you.
Oh fuck! Oh fuck!
Which
That's
again
incredible.
is kind of like, which I think for me is like, again, they wrote that in what, 5 years ago.
Incredible.
The idea that like we know where it's going to go.
Do you know what I might just, with my wife and I, we might just pull up that episode of Discovery and see, because like there's characters we recognize and actors we recognize. That could be an interesting experience. And then you'd be like, did it make any sense? I'm like, well, we'll find out, right?
Well, there's going to be a lot of like
other stuff.
Sorry, there's other stuff.
Damn it.
Which, I mean, it's fine. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show. Yeah, if anything, it's making a stronger argument for me to eventually watch Discovery, which I think, no offense, like everybody on the internet except for you kind of is arguing against, but I also think that a lot of people just don't like new Star Trek. In which case, I know because of the Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds is the wrong answer. New Star Trek is great. And we'll eventually get to Picard once 709 shows up in Voyager. So, the bigger question is, why does Starfleet have like execution orders? That seems kind of weird. But that's a different story for a different day.
And actually, just to top off on that, what I love about Discovery is they acknowledge that normally the Telosians have their own defense.
Okay.
The idea that like they acknowledge like, hey, don't come here.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
It's interesting because they're like a dying species, right? Like that's the whole point.
The idea that like after their encounter with Starfleet, they basically, because again, they have super psychic powers.
Right.
So when Spock and his sister show up in their shuttlecraft, which they stole, it becomes, his Spock knows what he's doing. His sister does not. He's like, we're going here. Oh, it's a black hole. Like, we're flying into a black hole. We need to steer away. And it's that idea that, like, even the Telosians are like, no, actually, normally we put up a psychic defense field.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Which then, and for me, watching that just earlier today, and thinking about Menagerie, where they just let the fucking ship roll up.
Right into it.
Like, it's this idea that, like, yeah, man, they're just working to help people. Right?
Yeah. I love Star Trek. So if you, dear listeners, have any thoughts about the topics we discussed this week, feel free to leave your thoughts as comments on the page for this episode at forallintents.net.
You can also post your comments or engage in conversations with other listeners on our Facebook page.
You can find us on other social media, specifically places that Andrew and I frequent, which means you can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at dbethelcomics, and you can find Andrew on Mastodon and consequently on Blue Sky at profounddark@dice.camp.
While you're at our website at forallintents.net, you can also take a look at our YouTube page, which you can find by clicking on the link in the corner that says YouTube. There you will find our show simulcast in YouTube. If you do listen to the show on YouTube, please like and subscribe and ring that bell so you'll get notifications.
We used 2 tracks of music for our show. One is called Disco Medusi. The other is called District 4. Both written and performed by Kevin MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod, immortal swordsman, graph paper enthusiast, and musician extraordinaire.
You can find his music and more at incompetech.filmmusic.io, and that's all licensed under the Creative Commons 4.0 Attribution License.
If you'd like the show and like to help us out, the best way to do so would be to subscribe to the show using whichever podcasting service you happen to use. What would help us out even more, though, would be to leave some sort of review, whether a text review or using the proprietary metric will spread the word to new potential listeners through the magic of algorithms. I guess I've been on like a lore origin kind of rabbit hole here. So like, I'm watching this old Star Trek and going like, oh, I know that character, right? Captain Pike's hair should be taller, especially if he's a Vulcan. But the other thing I've been doing recently that I wrapped up ostensibly this last weekend, or my birthday weekend, was that I had read the story called, a novella technically called Who Goes There? Written by not Joseph Campbell, John Campbell, I think his name is, which is a story that that was adapted into the 1982 film The Thing.
Oh shit!
Yeah, because I'm a big H.P. Lovecraft fan, and probably my favorite, one of my favorite H.P. Lovecraft stories is At the Mountains of Madness, which is about shit going down in Arctic research base, right? Kind of. There's part of me as a Lovecraft fan, not endorsing his politics, but there was a part of me that's always like, oh yeah, that John Campbell just ripped off At the Mountains of Madness. No, he didn't. I will say this definitively. And the one thing that's really interesting to me is that obviously The Thing, not obviously, but John Carpenter's The Thing was technically a remake of a 50s science fiction film that was based on the story.
I was about to ask you, like, because I remember seeing when I was very young,
The Thing from
not
Another
the whole
World?
thing. Yeah, The Thing, just parts of it, and it was boring.
I'm interested. I have not seen that film, and I can
I think
tell
I
you
only
that,
saw like a third of it.
So part of me is like, I know a bit about that movie. I know that the Thing in that film is basically it's a bionic organism, like a humanoid organism that can shapeshift, but it's plant based. I'm like, oh, that's weird. That's not in the John Carpenter movie at all. So I'm like, I went into reading this novella going like, what is the actual story? I don't think it's a well-written book. And I learned subsequently that I think it might be not well written because it's actually a chopped down version that Campbell did of a novel he wrote. And so I'm like, oh, okay. So I have, of course, being the nerd I am, have purchased the novel that has been released called Frozen Hell, I think is what what Campbell called it. And because I felt like the narrative was really choppy, and I felt like it felt like characters weren't really talking to each other. But that being said, like, I found the story quite engaging, and most importantly, this, based on what I know about the 1950s film, and knowing very well the 1982 film, John Carpenter did a much more faithful adaptation of the original novella than the 50s film did. It is about a creature from another world that is a shapeshifter. There's no plant-based anything in there. And it is about distrust. Who among us is the Thing? And it's funny, one of the aspects of the novella that stands out a lot when you realize, when you start reading it, is like, oh, I know why John Carpenter called it the Thing. Because every other fucking sentence, once they pull this creature out of the ice, all they do is call it the Thing, the Thing, the Thing. I'm like, yeah, why didn't you call the story this in the first place? Because that's the most used word, I would say, in the story overall. But it's fun. It's a fun little novella. It's pretty spooky, and especially if you're aware of the John Carpenter film, I think you get a lot out of it. Especially the fact that John Campbell is super in love. Like, I would argue literally in love with the character McCready, who was played in the movie by Kurt Russell. Because he's like, this bronze giant gives a snarky smirk. I'm like, okay, guys, get a fucking room, all right? But no, it's fun. It captures the paranoia. It captures the what do you call it? What do you call it when you're trapped in a small space? The claustrophobia of that kind of space, and it doesn't shy away from being kind of gross, despite being a story that was published in the 30s. So if you're interested at all, if you like the movie The Thing, do not be scared to approach Who Goes There. It is an interesting short story that follows the beats of The Thing pretty well, even though it's a bit slow to start. Hits all the notes. Good times. So that's my little check-in from Cosmic Horror Fun Times.
I do love the idea that John Carpenter did better than whoever the fuck did that movie.
Right. I think it was because of 1950s sensibility, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
And John Carpenter read especially the last 30 pages of the book. He's like, oh damn, I could do this, but worse. Like, let's get gross.
Which, again, my only complaint about the thing is that if you speak Norwegian.
Yep, it's spoiled in the first 5 minutes. Yeah, but that's the best part. Like, how great is that? Then it becomes a tragedy instead of a horror film, right?
They told you.
Yeah,
they said in Norwegian.
I don't think that harms the viewing experience at all. It just changes the context. It changes the genre.
Just gives this context, which and actually, like, I have not seen the thing in so long.
You should come over. Let's watch it.
I kind of want to watch it with the idea that, like, if I'm Norwegian and I know what they're saying, it's the fucking dog.
I would also argue to watch it this way. Not only know that it's the fucking dog, but also keep in mind the question is this: does the thing ever attack offensively, or does it only react defensively? I think that's an interesting argument. Anyway, paranoia is bad. So until you react positively in a moment of Arctic paranoia, sure, that could happen. I'm D. Bethel.
And I'm Andrew Asplund.
And for all intents and purposes,
that was a podcast.